Well, thank you so much, Allison. Thanks, everybody. Welcome to all my WFP friends and family. I don't want to say good evening because it truly isn't one. Uh, Justified anger and yet another rash of police killings has resulted in protests across the country. And the last few nights, we've seen a shocking police reaction. Mace, protesters violently thrown to the ground, military hardware deployed in our cities, police vans driven into crowds, rubber bullets shot at journalists and civilians. I've been part of organizing dozens of protests as part of the movement for Black Lives, and I've not seen escalations like this often, and they're happening everywhere. Police are stoking violence, and we've heard reports that some destructive white nationalists are participating in protests in order to escalate violent conflict. I've been struggling to find the right words to share with you tonight. What I'm left with today is the realization that there are no quote unquote right words, and there is no right reaction to something so deeply wrong. The wrong I'm talking about spans 4 centuries and has had genocidal impact. It's white supremacy and racial capitalism, the modus operandi of our global order, the wind beneath the wings of the American project. Last week, a Trump administration official referred to American workers as, and I quote, human capital stock. What was so jarring is the fact that we, our Black bodies, were the capital in capitalism. Our ancestors were the original human capital stock that financed America and transformed feudal European nations into global capitalist colonial empires. Indigenous genocide and the transatlantic slave trade are the founding atrocities that birthed the modern era. I watched the video of George Floyd's final moments, and it was horrific. Now, one thing that will stay with me is the cool, mechanical indifference of the police. The mechanical dismissal of Black life permeates our society. It is born from the commodification of Black bodies centuries ago. The ability to buy, sell, trade, and dispose of people like human capital stock doesn't end with emancipation. Ahmaud Arbery, a Black man jogging in Georgia, stalked and lynched in broad daylight. Nina Pop, a trans Black woman stabbed to death in Missouri. Breonna Taylor, a Black woman shot dead in her own home by police searching for someone else. Christian Cooper, a Black birder who had police called on him for respectfully asking a white woman to leash her dog. And tens of thousands of Black people who have died from COVID-19. Each one, people with complex lives, stories, families, failings, regrets, and desires. Though their stories and direct causes of death were different, what connects them is the ultimate perpetrator: white supremacy itself, perfected over generations, and racial capitalism in all of its forms. It is deadly. What else can we expect of an ideology that seeks to render people into things to be used and discarded? We know racial capitalism does not simply target and surveil Black folks. We all, although not equally, are subject to its indifference. It places targets on the backs of immigrants of every race. It visits the doors of poor and working people, including poor and working white folks, even the ones who vote for policies that protect white billionaires. Many times, that racial caste is a source of disunity rather than a point of solidarity. Forging unity through political struggle, through recognizing our different experiences is the hope and promise of the Working Families Party. Each of us will respond to this week's events in different ways, and there is no right way to respond. There are many ways we could show compassion, grace, patience, and kindness. The little sliver of hope in these dark times is each other. We do not have to sit idle while more of our family and community members become hashtags, and as our elected officials twiddle their thumbs and offer lukewarm condolences or outright indifference to our deaths. If you feel moved to action, there are protests in cities around the country, which you can attend if you feel like it's safe for you. You could donate to bail funds, and we're sharing a link to some bail funds in the chat right now. So click on that link and please donate. You could call your local elected officials and demand they stop and they somehow try to stop out of control police and punish violent policing. And given that the coronavirus will cause budget shortfalls in probably every city in America, you can demand cities cut police budgets instead of investments in education, health, and employment. These are immediate actions. The ultimate work is the long-term organizing and movement building we need to make a daily practice. Our commitment is to build the deep democracy and self-determination that will ensure our safety. We will be coordinating closely with leaders in the movement for Black lives as things develop, which brings me to my final point. The moral arc of the universe is long. The fight for a more just and equitable world spans centuries. The struggle for Black freedom spans generations. The work is our inheritance. You don't have to watch every video or any video. You don't have to follow each breaking headline. Take time away to connect with loved ones or do things that bring you joy. This too is a form of resistance, but we hope you'll join us in unity and struggle for justice as part of the WFP. Thank you. And now it's my sincere pleasure to introduce Representative Summer Lee. In 2018, Summer became the first Black woman from Southwestern Pennsylvania to hold the office of state representative, winning with more than 60% of the vote in a race against a 20-year incumbent. Since taking office in 2019, Summer has been a voice for people across the district, championing initiatives that support sustainable jobs, environmental responsibility, police accountability, and gender and racial equality, and has been a tireless advocate for workers' rights and the fight for a $15 minimum wage. During her short time in office, Summer has already brought nearly $2 million back to the district for infrastructural updates and community revitalization. She sponsors 71 bills in the House and has cast more than 800 votes on legislation that directly affects our communities. Now, she has a very competitive primary election this Tuesday, June 2nd. Summer, it's great to have you on. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us tonight. Now, and you're on mute right now, so please unmute yourself. And let's get right into it. So my first question is, and I'm reflecting on the importance of Black feminism, intersectionality, and prison abolitionism for today's struggles. How has your experience as a Black woman, a community activist, and a leading advocate for criminal justice reform shaped your politics? How are they making sense at this moment?
Yeah, look, that is the thing that I'm always kind of talking about and having to talk about, because like as the first Black woman, from this area to be elected from an area that, we have a lot of folks, we call them blue dog Democrats. We have a deep rooted kind of, almost to the point that when people from like Philly, the other side of our state, think about Western Pennsylvania, they don't even think of Black people because they had just not ever seen Black reps come into this space. So to have been a poor woman, a Black woman, from, an under-resourced community, every one of those things absolutely informs my policies, because those identities and those perspectives has informed the way that I've navigated society itself. So when we think about how all these issues today are impacting me as a Black woman on the front lines, fighting and standing up, one of the names that could have been mentioned was Antoine Rose, who was my neighbor. He's one of my neighbors, and he was a Black child shot in his back. Those things, we hold those things in a different way. When you live them, when this is your lived experience, when you deal with misogynoir in so many different spaces, especially in legislation, that makes us think about policy different. But also when we are not just creating policy, but when we are voting up or down on policy, sometimes just being a Black woman, we're able to see things and discern things that other folks don't see that way. We look at policy different than other folks do because of our lived experiences, because of the ways that we carry our communities with us. So that's been an incredible thing. And I think it's something that we can't underestimate when we're talking about how we're going to build a working class movement, but still using electoral politics as a way of doing that.
Mm. Thank you for that. I couldn't agree more. Now I want to take it further. So in my address, I talked about white supremacy, and I talked about anti-Blackness. And so my question for you is around that theme. And dismantling white supremacy and building institutions founded on Black liberation are two guiding principles for the WFP. We know that the money spent on police work does not keep us safe, and that many cities like Philadelphia, for example, spend more on the policing and caging of Black people than they do on healthcare education, and other life-affirming services. Can you talk about your vision for police and criminal reform in Pennsylvania and how lawmakers can lead the way in forming anti-racist budgets?
Yeah, we are at the point where there's no room for equivocation, not a bit. And I think that yesterday, just having dealt with what we dealt with yesterday, having seen what I saw yesterday, having felt tear gas myself, even as I was there just trying to make sure that the young folks who were protesting had safe exit. I think it's clear that the violence of the police, as we're seeing it escalate across this country, that we have to recognize that this is not an anomaly. This is not a one-off thing. This is not just a radical response. This is literally the ways in which Black communities, brown communities have been policed since the inception of policing. That is something that my fellow legislators have to recognize. So in an ideal world, we have a system where humans are not being policed by folks, whose primary goal is to build, is to overload prisons. And when we talk about that, when we talk about abolition work, we also have to talk about abolition of prisons. And those go hand in hand. And the legislature has a big role to play in that. Even as we're talking about specifically about funding, when we're looking at Pennsylvania, my state, we're looking at a system where our education system has been defunded, but mass incarceration has been funded. In fact, in Pennsylvania, we spend more per capita to imprison a human being than we do to educate them in college. So as we're talking about shifting those systems, we need to talk about how we are appropriating money to go into under-resourced communities, to go into Black and brown communities so that they have opportunities, so that they have access, so that that is not necessarily to over-police us in the first place. We have to talk about the interconnectivity of all of these other things that keep us in cyclical racism in the first place. And that's not just policing. And it's not just mass incarceration, but we also have to talk about environmental racism. We have to talk about healthcare. We have to talk about how we have food deserts and transportation deserts. And we have to talk about how all of those things collude to keep us in these cycles. And then when we are over-policed, then we are just funneled into prisons. And we need to have legislatures who are bold enough to move on bills that will not just defund the police, because that can't be our goal anymore. We need to eradicate every single oppressive system that we have. And I know that in our state, we have bills right now that, knowing that no one is going to be ready to move on, prison abolition or police abolition, but we do at least have bills that could move today to make sure that we are ending a deadly use of force and we're changing the use of force policies, or that we're changing who can prosecute a police officer who kills somebody, or that we're creating databases so that we can track misconduct like we do with anybody else, or certification and decertification process. We have all those bills that exist right now, and we need to be pressuring not just Republicans, because people think this is just a Republican thing, but Democrats and our unions, because we need to have solidarity across the board. We can't just rely on Black and brown folks protesting. We need every single sector of our society to stand up with us now to put that pressure so that we can just move these bills and change these systems.
Amen. Amen.
I'm sorry, you got me into like an open-ended question.
This is why we're here, right? This is why we're here. So my last question, and then we'll close, is around just the value of building Black political power in a battleground state like Pennsylvania that you're in, which is going to be one of the few states that will decide the presidential election. And how can folks on this call help you in the Pennsylvania WFP do just that?
That's going to be a really big task, because we're working up against a lot. When we think about Black folks and the Black vote and how it's been taken for granted, how it's been overburdened, how it's been undervalued at the same time, we really have to think about how the political parties, the two-party system has basically been self-sabotaging, and Black folks and brown folks have been the ones who have received the brunt of that. So the work that we really need to do right now in building political power for Black and brown folks, I think basic principles. Even as we discuss political power and political engagement, we have to discuss it differently. We have to disavow vote shaming, disavow kind of that urge to blame the victims. Instead of focusing on the system, which is what we should be indicting. Our electoral system is complicated and purposefully difficult and inaccessible, and folks rely on that so that we don't aren't able to amass that power. So when we're talking about building power, engaging people, before we say, did you vote, will you vote, we have to say, did you run? Do you know somebody running? How can we help to support the people in your community who you think should be representing you? How can we start to build locally so that as we're getting up to those national levels, we now know that all over this country now, we've helped local communities, Black and brown communities, build their own political power. That means that we need to put funds into it. That means that when Black women are running for office, we can no longer stay silent when the Democratic Party doesn't endorse them, even though they're the incumbent. Yes, that was a little bit of shade on my behalf. It's my only shot I'm gonna take. But we need to call that out. And it's hard calling out the Democratic Party. It's hard to have those discussions about what it means when folks say you ain't Black if you don't vote. Because what that does is it takes us away from our focus. Yes, we have to defeat Trump, but we cannot do that if we are not mobilizing the Black vote. And the way that we mobilize the Black vote is by treating it just like we treat the middle class swing voters who are white. We need to put money, resources, effort. We need to court them. We need to include them in policy decisions and policy making. We need to uplift their candidacies. And that's all work that we need to do. We can't do it all, of course, but we got to start to do it. We have to start seeing it that way.
All right. Amen. And that is, I think you said it perfectly and beautifully. That is why we work every day to build the WFP and to support working families, candidates like yourself, Summer. And I just want to thank you for all of your work and for withstanding attacks from the left and the right? Or from Democrats and Republicans, right?
Yeah, that is a thing, but we know that when we're doing justice work and we know when we're doing anti-racist work, that makes folks uncomfortable. I know it's not just me taking, I know it's you all taking it too. So I'm grateful to be in this with you all. I'm grateful to stand side by side with you all. So thank you for your work.
Thank you. All right, so we're gonna pivot now from Pennsylvania to New Mexico. And I'd like to introduce Naomi Martinez-Parra, WFP candidate for New Mexico Senate District 35, and Noreen Kelly, WFP candidate for New Mexico Senate District 4. Naomi Martinez-Parra is a special education teacher in Lordsburg who has helped students in her community struggling with poverty and homelessness. Supporting children in New Mexico and affordable, accessible healthcare are key aspects of her platform. She knows firsthand how underfunding education hurts students, and she's experienced the difficulties many New Mexicans face trying to pay for their medication or receive proper medical treatment as a full-time caregiver of her elderly mother. She's committed to addressing access to equal housing, infrastructure, preserving New Mexico's public lands, and immigration. Noreen is a lifelong healthcare and environmental activist, a Navajo elder from Church Rock, New Mexico, and member of the school board. She's committed to helping those in her district, focusing on environmental justice, language preservation, early childhood education, and food sovereignty. McKinley County has been gravely impacted by COVID-19. Noreen is working to help those in need who lack infrastructure, adequate healthcare, internet access, stable living conditions, and access to water. Naomi and Noreen, it's great to have you on. So my first question is, I'm thinking about all the ways that we as a group, as a people, fight for justice and the decisions we as individuals make to shape our collective future. Can you both briefly walk us through your journey of running for office? What shaped your politics and how did you come to run for Senate?
I'm having trouble. I'm in a rural community, so I'm not sure if you can hear me.
We can hear you loud and clear.
Okay. And I can't really see anything. Sorry. Give me a second.
You sound great.
Okay. So first of all, let me just say that I was born and raised in Lordsburg, New Mexico. My father was a Mexican immigrant to this country. My mother was born in Hanover, New Mexico, and I'm the youngest of 9 children. And I went on to earn a master's degree in special education. But let me back up just a couple seconds. What's unique about my parents is that they both had an elementary education. And I saw the struggles, and we went through our poverty stages in life, but it was them that forced me to seek further in education because I saw the true work ethic of my parents. And I went in to get a degree in special education, so I do have a master's in that. And it was then in the classroom that I noticed the discrepancies in our education system, and also taking care of my 93-year-old mother. So I decided that I wanted to change that. I wanted to be a bigger part of the picture. And so I want to change that. I want to put working families first. I want to take care of our seniors, and I want to put our children first, because New Mexico in Southern District 35 needs a voice in Santa Fe. We need a voice in our legislature. We need constituents to know what is happening up in Santa Fe when decisions are being made about our lives. I need to know. And so this is why I took the pledge to run for Senate.
Thank you so much. Noreen, would you like to share a little bit about what brought you to run? And you're currently on mute, so just unmute yourself. Okay, yeah, you're off mute.
Okay. Good afternoon or good evening, or what a wonderful day to be together. How's that? I'm Noreen Kelly, and I am the Neh person, which is Navajo. Navajo was given to us as derogatory, but we identify ourselves as people of the earth in our native introduction. I am of the Twittichini clan, which is Bitterwater, born for the Batani, and under his arm is my father's clan. My grandmother's clan is, or my grandfather's clan is Tamahe, near the water. And my father's father, my grandfather, paternal grandfather, is Tachini, is red streak into the water. And that's how we introduce ourselves. And when I decided to run for this position, we've been lobbying the legislators for 4 years. Every legislative session we were there working and bringing legislation that was human related, human relief efforts. But we never got our senators to vote for us. Certain senators would vote with the Republican legislators. So, and this past legislative session, the same thing. It was about monies that were paid to the state of New Mexico as tax, and we wanted to keep that money here in New Mexico. And we said that a good portion of that would be put into the affordable health care that we've been working on. And the $25 million would go into the general fund, but the Senate did not move it forward, so it just died there, and that was so frustrating. And we continue to advocate for affordable health care, Medicaid buy-in, and they just hopped around it, I say. And it was so coincidental that things happened in their lives that they were absent during these times when they should be voting. So that's how I got into the position of running for Senate. And also our platform is that we need, just like Naomi says, we're not represented there. We have a millionaire representing that are in poverty, that do not even know what it means to have money. So how can you relate to being the representing person to a person that is wondering where their next meal is going to come from, or how they're going to pitch or roof so that the rain won't come in? that's what brought me here.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your story. And I have one more question for the both of you. So you're part of a slate of progressive champions, all of whom are women, who are challenging a coalition of corporate Senate Democrats. These 5 corporate Democrats banded together to water down the minimum wage bill, block full funding for early childhood education, undermine reproductive rights, and protect a tax system that works for the wealthy and breaks the backs of New Mexico's working families. I'd imagine you both have a pretty different set of values. Can you tell us more about your vision for New Mexico?
Well, I'm going to say that sometimes it takes a David to take down the giant. And I need everyone to know that families need to come first. Our families deserve a decent pay. We deserve decent wages. And we need to, relook at our working families tax credit. It was HB 148, that this would allow us to be a little bit better off. We would be healthier. We could put food on our tables. And not only that, our District 35, we are among the poorest in our state. Not only that, we'd have no funding for early childhood education. And if we would just tap into that land grant fund, we could have money for our early childhood educators that would sustain them into adulthood, into post-secondary education. We can get colleges ready, we could get trade schools ready, and we could get a strong working force. So our county will not be poor anymore. It just takes somebody strong, somebody bold to make it up there. And I also want us to consider our HB 51, which is to amend the law to decriminalize abortion. We need to enact policies and appropriate adequate funding to improve our state.
Thank you so much. Noreen.
Yes, I feel that I can say from my district, I am the champion. I worked extremely hard on the House Bill 51 and been working on it for the last 3 years just to have the Senate vote with the Republicans. And also that we are, just like Naomi said, we're at 39% of the district that is poverty. And our county or the district is almost 79% or almost 80% Native Americans, the Navajo Nation as well as the Zuni Nation. And the Navajo Nation has the highest rate of COVID-19. And today we're a little over 200 members of the nation that have died from COVID-19 because we don't have the health care that we should have. And we go out, I've been delivering food out into the most remote areas, and people have no food. And we were looking at what grocery store we had on our Navajo Nation. And the only one is down in Rama, New Mexico. And from my house, it's almost 90 miles. And Gallup was on riot act lockdown for almost a whole week. And people that didn't go shopping, what did they eat? I have a freezer that's full of food and I'm halfway done with that. And I don't know if everybody has a freezer in their house. So that's what brings us here, to say we want to make a difference, because we've lived like this for too long. For our senator from our area to be making millions of dollars through corporations, oil and gas, and pharmaceuticals. That is not representation, that's promoting yourself and no one else. That is why I'm here. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to send so much condolences and strength and solidarity to everybody in your nation that has even fallen ill or passed away to COVID-19. And we're all a community in full solidarity with you and everybody around the country that's facing the multiple crises of COVID-19, of police violence, of this economic system that doesn't value working people. And so Naomi and Noreen, I'm so proud to stand with you and the rest of the WFP candidates in New Mexico as you get the work done. And we're rooting for you in the next few days as you complete your journey, your electoral journey to victory that will ensure.
Thank
And
you.
it's wonderful.
So much.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you. And it's wonderful to hear from you both and Summer, 3 people helping to lead our country through, like I said before, these interrelated crises and injustices in this moment, and to ensure we build a freer and fair America in the process. As we continue to fight for a national response that reflects the urgent needs of regular working people, not corporate CEOs, it's critical we share our stories with one another. So next, we're going to take a few minutes to hear from Monique, a WFP member living in Albuquerque, New Mexico, who's offered to share their story tonight. So Monique, it's great to have you on. Do you mind telling us a little bit about yourself, what brought you to WFP, and why you're supporting the No Corporate Dems campaign? Monique, you're on mute, so please unmute yourself so we could all hear you. Oh, you are still on mute. Try it again. There you go.
Yeah, you can hear me.
Absolutely.
Hi, my name is Monique, and I am a member of the Working Families Party here in New Mexico, and I'm out here on the grounds, and I'm committed to building the long-term power for all people. That is my goal as a Working Families Party member. Sorry, I'm nervous.
We got you. Take your time.
And the candidates that we have here, that we have endorsed from Working Families, are great candidates. Like, they are the ones there that we have put, that are going to be in the position to be able to fight for us. They've been fighting for us, fighting against the corporate Democrats so that we can change that. And so that's why I'm here at New Mexico Working Families, is because I want to be part of the movement, and the powerful movement that is going to make change. Being part of the justice system and other welfare systems, I think all people should have health care. A lot of the issues that Summer spoke about as being an African-American woman that I face as well in my community. I agree, like, the education has been defunded and mass incarceration, and I fight for that. I'm really a big advocate on the justice system. So the candidates that we have endorsed, they're fighting for us, and they're fighting against those who are standing with corporate Democrats, and that's why I'm here.
Well, thank you, Monique, and I'm honored that the WFP is your political home, and I deeply appreciate you sharing your story and the work that you're doing to elect a New Mexico that truly works for the many. And Monique's story makes it so clear the moral mandate all of us have to ensure a nation that is just and kind and gives all the ability to thrive, no matter where you're from, what you believe, what you look like, who you love, or how much money is in your pockets, or how much money your parents have. And I'm glad so many of you on this call are taking that mandate seriously. The only way we can build that nation together is through organizing a multiracial, cross-class coalition powerful enough to win power for the people. At the WFP, we depend on each other. So tonight, I have 2 ways that WFP members are showing up for each other. The first is to donate to a national bail fund. There are groups and collectives across the country radically intervening in a system that treats people differently based on wealth, skin color, immigration status, and influence. In the link we just shared is a list of groups committed to challenging the criminalization of race, poverty, and immigration status, the practice of putting a price on fundamental rights, and the persistent myth that bail is a necessary element of the justice system. There are a lot of different groups on that list. Groups that pay bail for people in need, provide post-release support to folks out of jail, and to a situation of safety organized to end cash bail and wealth-based detention through community partnerships and more. So click on that link in order to support all the efforts to challenge money bail to create a more equitable criminal legal system. Like I said before, the moral arc of the universe is long, but it is bending towards justice. And these are just some of the groups that are building the foundation for our lives in the free world. Second, tonight I'm going to ask you to join as an official WFP member. At the WFP, we depend on each other. We depend on your smarts, your creativity, your time, and your resources, your testimony, your time, and your treasure. If you believe in this movement, we need you to be an active part of it, right? So we're humble, we're uneven, we're imperfect, but we are ours. And so if you believe in people's movements, you have to invest in people's movements. So if you've never officially joined and paid dues before, this is your chance to do it. It's very easy. You could just text the word member to 738674. So take your phone out, go into the text app, text to the number 738674, the word member, right? And it'll take you directly to a page where you could sign up with your dues. So that's one way. The other way is if you are on the app right now, go into the chat box and click on that link, and that link will send you directly to a page where you could join as a WFP member. Now, some of you are already members, and we always encourage you to bump up your monthly membership. If you're a $10 sustainer, you could bump up to 11, 12, 15. If you're $15 sustainer, bump up to 20. Those small monthly donations of 10, 15, 17, $25, they add up and build a mighty movement where through our voices and through our collective resources, we could win. But as we know, running independent campaigns require a lot of grit and some money. And so we need both. And so we can support candidates like Summer, Noreen, and Naomi towards the finish line and towards victory. So we're just gonna wait a little bit longer for folks to become members. And if you have become a member, or if you are a member, please say so in the chat box to let folks know. And if you're a member now, if you just became a member, definitely get in the chat box and let folks know that you became a monthly WFP member. Thank you for all our members, and we're so very proud of you. Great, thank you for becoming monthly sustaining members. Okay, and again, thank you for investing in our collective freedom, and thanks for signing up. I'm so proud to be a member myself, and I think I'll bump myself up once we're done with this call. Okay, now we're gonna shift gears. We're going to try something new tonight to connect with all of you, joining by phone and by video. I'm going to bring back my colleague, Allison Conyers, who opened up the call tonight to lead us through this next section. Allison?
Great. Hi, everyone. Again, I'm Allison. So like I mentioned at the beginning of the call, one of the key things that we're doing during our regular assemblies is building beloved community, right? Building trust across differences. And the way that we do that is the only way, of course, that we're going to be strong enough to defeat the billionaires and the white nationalists. So that's why we carve out time at the end of these assembly calls for us to really connect with each other. So thanks for hanging in there, and we definitely want to make sure that we hear from as many of you as possible. In just a moment, we're going to ask you to share your thoughts through a website called Menti, M-E-N-T-I, menti.com. If you're joining by video, you'll be able to see responses as they're shared in real time. And I'll be reading out responses too. So folks who are joining by phone, you won't be left out. We really want these assemblies to be a space where we can build that community, and the way that we do that is together. So if this is your first time calling, or if you've joined every month, we want to hear your thoughts and ideas. And if this is not something that's for you, that's okay too. You can step back and listen and hear what other people have to say on the call. All right, so let's get set up. what you need to do is grab your cell phone, or you can do it on your computer. Just go to www.menti.com. We're also going to put the link in the chat right now. Go to www.menti.com, and then you input the code. It's 633638. So there's a link in the chat, and the code is right there too. Type in the code 633638 and press submit. And again, it's menti.com, MENTI.com. That's the website that we're using. You can go to it on your computer or on your phone too. So if you're using your phone, you can go to menti.com and type in the code 633638. All right. So my colleague's gonna share her screen now. Great, I see people are getting there. You can click the heart, you can click the thumbs up button. Let us know that you're here and that you see the WFP logo there. All right, great. So we got people joining. See lots of folks. Great. So why don't we go ahead? Yeah, I think the last one on the right is a cat. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe you just want to like hit the cat button. All right. So the first question that we have, what's 1 or 2 words to describe how you're feeling in this moment? Go ahead and type in your answer if you're on menti.com, and we're already starting to see the answers come in. Oof, the biggest one is angry. Yep. Tired, I saw. Worried. Exhausted, hopeful. Some people are typing into the chat too, emotional. Yeah, there's a lot going on right now. I'm also seeing some things like more hopeful, more optimistic, some of the smaller words, and hopeful is now in the lead, one of our largest words too. And tired, that one really resonates with me. And sad, exhausted. Great. Yeah, angry and tired I see in the chat. Yeah, let's go ahead and move on to the next question. Want to make sure that we can hear from as many people as possible. Wow, 80 people respond to that question. Our next question is, what stuck out for you while you listened to the speakers today? What stuck out for you while you listened to the speakers today? You can go ahead and type in your answers in the chat. Oh, they're coming in. All right, I see committed, hope, pain, potential power. Absolutely, representation and legislation matters. Absolutely. Black women get it done all the time. We do. Just in kind policies, right? Exactly what we need to look forward to. Can we scroll down? I wonder if there are more responses. Inspiring, I see. Definitely felt that on the chat. Yeah, I see some answers in the chat to unifying all working people together to force the change of policy. Lovely. Great, and again, we have 74, 75 people who've responded to this one. Awesome. Powerful women of color, absolutely. Cool, all right, we're back up again to 81. So let's go to the next question. Let's hear from more people. Yeah, what did you hear that made you curious today? What did you hear that made you curious? You can type in your answers to menti.com. Cool, that's interesting. I think we would want to follow up with that person. How to run for office, prison abolition, how to get more involved with your local party. Awesome. Yes, racial capitalism, a term that made someone curious. Noreen's story, absolutely. Wanting to know more about the Working Families Party, lovely. And you saw that there were lots of links in the chat and lots of ways for you to learn more about the party. How to get things happen is something that I just saw popped up in the chat. Barriers that people-centered candidates face, that definitely resonated with me listening to Summer talk at the beginning of the call. Yeah, absolutely. How can this country not make sure there is a grocery store closer than 90 miles away? Absolutely. Food deserts still existing in our country in 2020. Absolutely. So frustrating. All right. And maybe Can we get one last question before we close out? I want to make sure that folks can type in. Yes, okay. And what will you do in the next few days to build your resilience and grace for yourself? What will you do in the next few days to build resilience and grace for yourself? So key. Yes, take a break from the news. Yes, and social media too is something that I have really been thinking about for myself that I see here. Yeah, give everything to make sure we win in New Mexico. Absolutely. Try to get more sleep, work on grace. Constantly thinking about that. Conduct a healing circle, meditate, mindfulness, absolutely things that I'm thinking about as well. Meditate, journal, take action, repeat. Yes, all of these things so important to sustain ourselves through a global pandemic. I will welcome my child into the world. So exciting. Walk around the lake, reflect and journal and talk, and donate too. We'll end on this one. Call my elected leaders and demand change and remind them that they work for us. This is so awesome. I can't wait to take a moment after this call to review all of the comments that you have here, and actually really good ideas too that I'm going to make sure to take in consideration for myself as well. So thank you for participating. We know sometimes it can be difficult to have a conversation with so many people, so we thought we'd try a new way to hear not just from electeds and staff, but our supporters too. That's how we're going to build this community. So if you have any feedback about trying out this new activity, we'd love it. We'd love it. Please share it. And back to Maurice.
Okay. Thank you so much, Allison. And I just want to thank everybody, this beloved community, at a time in our nation's history that we all will reflect on in the years that come. And what we're building, what we've done on this call is the antidote to white Christian identity, to white nationalism, to corporate power, to racial capitalism, to all the things that we're challenging. Building a tapestry of people across race in every region of the country, committed to the values of working people, is how we challenge the dystopian vision of somebody like Donald Trump and the very hateful narratives that the right-wing coalition that had put him to the White House to begin with continue to proffer. So if you felt any sense of despair or anger or have felt tired, or that both tired and committed at the same time, we hope that this space was a bit of refuge for you and fueled your tank for the days and weeks and months to follow. We also encourage you to join this community. The way that we build a new type of politics is not based on the foundation of the politics that have, honestly, disappointed us so much from the Democratic and Republican Party. The way that we build a new type of politics is with authenticity and love and care. And we put those things first. We say that care is more important than cash, and that our relationships could fuel a transformation in our society. And we're here to prove that. And so we close every month with something I'm borrowing from my siblings in the Movement for Black Lives as a symbol of that community. In just a moment, I'm going to ask you to unmute yourself. But don't do it yet, please don't do it yet. I'll ask you to do it in just a moment, because we want everybody to hear one another. It can feel powerful, just hundreds of voices rising in a symphony. And we want you to choose any noise or word or symbol or song or phrase that sums up that solidarity that you think will get us through into a new era for our country. You could say goodnight, you could say solidarity, you could say all power to the people, whatever it is that for you signifies that. For those joining by video, look for the mic icon on the bottom left-hand side. Clicking the mic icon will unmute you. If you dialed in by phone, don't do it yet. If you dialed in by phone and are not using the Zoom app, you can press *6 to unmute yourself. So get ready to say goodnight together and unmute just in a second. I'm going to give you the 3, 2, 1 count off. And then either press *6 or press that icon. Okay? So 3, 2, 1.
La victoria siempre, pa'lante.
Power to the people.